At a very high level, there must have been great disturbance, since the ice dust clouds of the zenith were doing all sort of fantastic things. But at 24,000 feet, the height we needed to pass for the pass, we found navigation quite practicable. As we drew close to those jutting peaks, the wind's strange piping again became manifest, and I could see Danforth's hands trembling at the controls. Rank amateur though I was, I thought at that moment that I might be a better navigator than he in effecting the dangerous crossing between pinnacles. And when I made the motions to change seats and take over his duties, he did not protest. I tried to keep all my skill and self-possession about me, and stared at the sector of reddish farther sky betwixt the walls of the pass, resolutely refusing to pay attention to the puffs of mountain-top vapor, and wishing that I had wax-stopped ears like Ulysses' men off the Silence Coast to keep that disturbing wind piping from my consciousness. But Danforth, released from his piloting and keyed up to a dangerous nervous pitch, could not keep quiet. I felt him turning and wriggling about as he looked back at the terrible receding city. Ahead of the Cape riddled cube and peaks. Sidewise to the blue sea of snowy ramparts, strong foothills. And upward at the seething, grotesquely clouded sky. It was then, just as I was trying to steer safely through the pass, that his mad shrieking brought us so close to disaster by shattering my tight hold on myself and causing me to fumble helplessly with the controls for a moment. A second afterward, my resolution triumphed, and we made the crossing safely. Yet, I'm afraid Danforth will never be the same again. I've said that Danforth refused to tell me what final horror made him scream out so insanely, a horror which I feel sadly sure is mainly responsible for his present breakdown. We had snatches of shouted conversation above the winds piping and the engines buzzing as we reached the safe side of the range and swooped slowly down toward the camp. But that had mostly to do with the pledges of secrecy we had made as we prepared to flee the nightmare city. Certain things we had agreed were not for people to know and discussed lightly, and I would not speak of them now but for the need of heading off that Starkweather Moor expedition, and others at any cost. It is absolutely necessary that for the peace and safety of mankind, that some of Earth's dark, dead corners and unplumbed depths be left alone. Lest sleeping abnormalities wake to resurgent life, and blasphemous surviving nightmares squirm and splash out of their black lairs. To newer and wider conquests. All that Danforth has ever hinted that is that the final horror was a mirage. It was not, he declares, anything connected with the cubes and the caves of those echoing, vaporous, wormly honeycomb mountains of madness which would cross, but a single fantastic demonic glimpse among the churning zenith clouds. Lay back of those other violet westward mountains, which the old ones had shunned and feared. It is very probable that the thing was a sheer delusion born on the previous stretches we had passed through, and of the actual, though unrecognized mirage of the dead transmontane city he'd experienced near Lakes Camp the day before. But it was so real to Danforth that he suffers from it still. He has on rare occasions whispered disjointed and irresponsible things about, quote, the Black Pit, the Carven Marin, the Proto-Shoggoths, the windowless solids with 5 dimensions, the nameless cylinder, the Elder Pharaohs, Yog-Sothoth, the primal white jelly, the color out of space, the wings, the eyes in the darkness, the moon ladder, the original, the eternal, the undying, unquote. And other bizarre conceptions, but when he is fully himself, he repudiates all this and attributes it to his curious and macabre reading of earlier readers. Danforth indeed is known to be among the few who've ever dared to go completely through that warm-riddled copy of the Necronomicon, kept under lock and key in the college libraries. The higher skies we'd crossed the range was surely vaporous and disturbed enough, and although I did not see the zenith as I could well imagine that swirls of ice dust must have taken strange forms, imagination, knowing how vividly distant scenes can sometimes be reflected, refracted, and magnified by such layers of restless cloud, might easily have supplied the rest, and of course Danforth did not hint at any of those specific horrors till after his memory had a chance to draw on his bygone reading. He could never have seen so much in one instantaneous glance. At the time, his shrieks were confined to the repetition of a single mad word, all too obvious source. Tekeli Lee.